So, Michelle with you. It is 7.5 minutes past 5. Now, like me, you were probably shocked to hear one of the stories that Leah has been talking about in the news bulletins this afternoon. That's the news that Greater Manchester Police are warning all parents and guardians about a potentially deadly new craze. And this isn't like playing conkers in the playground where it's health and safety gone mad. This is serious. Apparently there is a craze called sleeper, which involves children completely covering the mouth and noses of younger children until they pass out. Now, it is extraordinary, and you wouldn't think that children would be daft enough to do this. It is extremely dangerous. The police are saying that a child is currently in hospital after falling victim to this so-called game. Well, Suzanne Guest is an occupational psychologist from Work in Mind in Wigan, and I wish we were speaking under better circumstances, Suzanne, because I couldn't believe this when I heard it.
Yeah, this is a really, really worrying trend that started, and one that could potentially lead to either death or really, really serious permanent brain injury.
So when did you first hear about it?
Last night. I think the police are doing a really good job in trying to get the message out there. I saw it on the Greater Manchester Police's Facebook page last night and was just really, really shocked at what I saw.
But so let's explain it if we can, because parents and grandparents need to be talking to kids about how dangerous this is. Explain a bit more about what we think is happening.
Well, it sounds like what children are doing are stopping younger children from breathing by covering their nose and the mouth. And I suppose the fun in it is seeing a child pass out. And most people, I totally appreciate, don't think that this is a dangerous thing to do, but anything that causes loss of consciousness is potentially really, really dangerous and could potentially cause, it's called anoxic brain damage, which starves the brain of oxygen, and actually does quite widespread damage. And that damage can be permanent and leave people with problems that, might maybe have difficulty with memory, with social skills, difficulty going back to work, just difficulty leading a normal life from something that's potentially started as a game.
See, when I was a kid, we used to get up to all sorts in the playground, hair pulling and a bit of bullying and what. This would never have crossed our minds. Not in a month of Sundays. Even if you wanted to shut someone up from, you might put your hand over their mouth to keep them quiet for a couple of seconds so they don't blurt out an answer to something. Yeah. But there's no way you'd consider doing this. No, it seriously makes you wonder where on earth our kids are going these days.
Yeah, I'm not sure where this has started from, but and I also think
there was a story, because when I read this, I remembered a story from only a couple of weeks ago, but I don't know how kids would know about this, of a lady in a restaurant, in a bathroom in a bathroom of a restaurant in New York a couple of weeks ago, who was I think she was the equivalent of the American version of sectioned after she suffocated her child to death.
Right, yeah.
And she'd done the same thing. She'd apparently put her hand over the mouth and nose, and when someone walked into the bathroom, because initially from the reports that I read, she'd been in the outside of the cubicle. Right. Someone walked in on her and she said, "Oh, don't worry, this is how I put him to sleep."
Wow.
So but I can't imagine that kids would know. I mean, I know that because I read everything, but I can't imagine children, and it wouldn't be playground fodder by now.
No, I wouldn't have thought so. I don't really know where this has started from, but I think it's one of those things that, we've all been a child and we want to try things that we've seen, but, I would really urge people to give this one a miss.
So if you were having a conversation with young people in your family tonight, because of course a lot of them haven't gone back to school yet. Yeah. They'll be going back to school in the next few days or so. I know my two are still off. Yeah. How do you broach a subject like this in a way that you're not giving the child enough information that they might want to go and try it? Because this is the difficult ground here, isn't it?
Yeah. I think it's very, very difficult to get have these conversations, but it might be worth checking out whether or not they've heard of what sleeper is, and monitor what they're watching on YouTube and the social media and see what they're talking about.
Even giving it a name like sleeper makes it look fairly sort of soft and innocuous and not very dangerous.
Possibly, yeah. And I think, the thing to really stress is that it is something that could cause death or very serious permanent injury.
I mean, I've seen, I'm a chair of governors of a primary school. I've seen some quite nasty injuries that can happen in the playground when you're just messing about.
Yeah.
But if a child, most kids these days are fairly sturdy little things. If one passes out and hits a concrete or a tarmac type surface, they could do themselves a really serious injury.
Yeah, absolutely. Because I suppose that's damage on two fronts. Then there would be the blow to the head, and also the potential anoxic brain damage that goes with it. There was the case, I don't know if you remember. It was a few years ago now, but Natasha Richardson, she bumped her head while she was skiing.
Oh, yeah.
And it seemed like quite a minor injury.
That's Liam Neeson's wife, wasn't it? Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, and a few hours later she passed on. So what I would also urge is that if anybody has been trying this and has lost consciousness, to seek medical help. If you are scared, tell your parents and go to your walk-in centre or ring 111 and get some advice just in case some damage has been done that could be reversed or, future damage prevented.
Well, I really, really hope that the one case that's being cited is the only case we see, but... Yeah. Being a woman and a journalist of the 21st century, I dread to see what might happen. Let's just hope we don't see this taking off. Thank you very much for joining us, Suzanne. If you want to go and find out more about this, it is on the Greater Manchester Police website. What they've put up there, and it is getting a huge response. It's not like the police, I promise you, it's not like the police to put up something that might scaremonger. Normally they would do something like this because it is scary. They would do something of this if they were really genuinely worried about it. They don't put up messages like this, excuse the phrase, willy-nilly. They really don't. So on their website it says, dangerous new craze warning, attention all parents and guardians. We have received reports of a new craze called sleeper. It involves children completely covering the mouth and noses of younger children until they pass out. Rightly so, they go on to say this is extremely dangerous and a child is currently in hospital being treated after falling victim to this so-called game. Please advise every child you know and warn them of the dangers. This could easily lead to concussion or even death. It is unbelievable. We stopped them playing from conkers and yet this might happen. And like I say, as a parent and as a former child, it does make you wonder what encourages kids to do stuff like this. Let's hope it was just an isolated incident and it will not happen again. And let's hope that the child that is in hospital makes a full recovery. But have it in mind, kids go back to school very shortly if they haven't done already. If you can have a conversation about it without either scaring them too much or making them overly curious, I would have that conversation. It's definitely worth it. It's 5:15.